And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We're starting things out looking at a custom helioviewer.org movie. It's a close-up in 1700 angstroms of Sunspot 2767. We only see one umbra. It's about the size of planet Earth. And we've included the Earth scale for your viewing pleasure. Next, we're going to take a look at the full disk in 193 angstroms. Coronal holes south of the equator there. North Pole coronal hole and South Pole coronal hole both in sight as well. We'll let that go through a second time. We've seen a big earthquake uptick, and we've got some Sharticles to cover. And some interesting weather forecasts. Here are the fields. And you can see there is some trailing magnetic field associated with that sunspot. We'll be watching it to see if it turns into an umbra or not, which could upgrade it to beta class, but it looks like it's shrinking so far. Next, here's the 304 angstroms view, which is fairly spectacular. Let that play through a second time here. And lastly, here's 171 angstroms. Again, my personal favorite. And let's move on to more stuff. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at 70. So that's a good thing, folks. And for you new viewers out there, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux is proportional to sunspot number. So it's one way to monitor solar activity besides sunspot number, one of many, many ways. KP index, an overall measurement of global geomagnetism here on Earth, is at 1. Pretty weak geomagnetism right now, and we don't see any significant X-ray flaring at the current moment. No significant proton events are currently happening, but we're expecting a small blip in this perhaps late on the 24th or early on the 25th, I believe, is the official forecast. Next, we'll take a look at the real-time solar wind, and I'll vanish for a moment. Current solar wind density around 10 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed 313 kilometers a second. Next, we'll take a look at the geospace model here. It's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. Looking at the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And you can see things like the locations of Van Allen belts and so on from these two views. Next, we'll come a little closer to home and look at ground geospace magnetic perturbations. We don't expect to see too many here, as there's not a whole lot of induction happening with that low solar wind speed. And we cover this daily to show all of you geomagnetic excursion enthusiasts the most current data. Nothing too extravagant happening there. Let's move on to some more stuff, such as the Smashlights section, where we talk about literally anything under the sun. Today's episode is going to feature some information about a radio relic. Yes, a radio relic detected in galaxy, well, I don't know what galaxy it is. CL2023, and it's perhaps giving us some insight into the structure at the core of that galaxy. The theory is that it's associated with a collision. I'm not so sure. This one's got a redshift of 0.23, and it's a large galaxy with a size of 727,000 light years, something like 4 or 5 times the size of the Milky Way. And that radio Relic extends about 1.6 million light years in the north-south orientation from the cluster, which is fairly interesting because it's clearly associated with the galaxy. And it's estimated to have a mass of 1,000 trillion solar masses. So 1.04 quadrillion solar masses. CL 2023 is the galaxy in question. If you want to read about it, it's on phys.org's Astronomy and Space section. Thanks to Nabo J for giving us information about coffee filters. It's all at smashomash.com/forum. Thanks, Terry, and other contributors to that. And it is in the new users forum, actually. smashomash.com/forum. Lots of topics available there. And this latest one is about bleached versus unbleached coffee filters, as well as some other stuff like using something besides tap water to make your coffee. Let's talk about Ethereum, the second most popular. We're moving into economics, folks. Second most popular cryptocurrency has reached a 5-month high recently, and we're looking at it here via the Coinbase exchange. And if you wonder why I always state which exchange we're using, it's because there are some problems with the volume data especially, and the different exchanges, as there's no consensus as to how to report data on cryptocurrency. So the volume data can be quite misleading depending on which source you look at. Again, Ethereum reached a 5-month high. Let's check out Bitcoin also on the Coinbase exchange. Bitcoin did not really follow that same suit there. Not sure exactly what that was that caused that to happen. Let's take a look at one more item here. And we're going to look at gold and silver. You can see gold at an astronomical high here. Deep within a 5-year high. And indeed, it is an all-time high. Gold at $1,879.70 an ounce. $1,879.70. I'd be delighted if you return me to the same spot where I was scrolling, cnbc.com. And there's the current price of silver. Who remembers when I was reporting on it below $13 an ounce? Back in March. Could not believe the way gold and silver followed the markets down. It made no sense and made the whole thing look intentionally engineered. Yes, like a scamdemic. Let's talk about corruption. Apparently corruption in St. Louis, as well as in my hometown, that is dishonesty or criminal offense undertaken by a person or organization entrusted with a position of authority. Have you noticed some authoritative figures being utterly corrupt? Well, I certainly have, such as my local code enforcement agent, who is, I think, criminally insane. St. Louis Prosecutor's Office is criminally insane also, as they reassembled Mrs. McCloskey's pistol, which was not functional when she was waving it around, famously in St. Louis, as their gated community's gate got broken in. And apparently a weapon has to be readily capable of lethal use when charged with the felony that Mrs. McCloskey was charged with. What's the problem? Well, the crime lab disassembled and then reassembled the gun differently as to how Mrs. McCloskey had it assembled, with the spring behind the firing pin making it functional, unlike how it was when this photo was taken. Having the spring in front of the firing pin makes it inoperable. It will not fire. And so in order to attempt to get a guilty verdict, the crime lab assistant circuit attorney Chris Hinckley is the corrupt official here, I believe, ordering crime lab staff to field strip the handgun and put it back together so it does work. Isn't that a great idea? Well done. Well done. That's called corruption, folks. This one's a Zero Hedge article. Well done, St. Louis. Well done. Let's talk about hallucination. Have you noticed people deranged and hallucinating and having hypoxia and not knowing what the hell they're talking about when it comes to infectious disease, climate change, etc.? Please do not fall victim to derangement and
hallucination,
as you may start to believe things that aren't true. Which brings me to my next point. Yes, I've written the parody song. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Why? Because Fauci has financial interests in vaccinations, and Fauci is a member of the deep state. I'm not sure which globalist organizations Fauci belongs to, but Fauci seems to have a vested interest in providing disinformation. So take it with a grain of salt, or like me, take it with a truckload. And shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Partisanship has untethered Americans' minds from objective reality, and this is part of the reason why people will believe whatever backs up their political nonsense. It's a bit of a problem, and I've been noticing it. Have you? Not really a fan when people can't evaluate anything objectively. Did you know that in most of the country, you're four times more likely to know a murder victim than a coronavirus death victim? Yeah, were you aware? Well, I don't know. Read the article on Zero Hedge if you haven't. From the Burning Platform blog, authored by Z-Man. The question we face in this age is whether it is possible to maintain a civil society with an abundance of people embracing an alternative reality. Fanatics, eccentrics, lunatics, I noticed there might be quite a bit of those, complete imbeciles on YouTube. Many monetized channels with tens of thousands of subscribers make thousands of dollars a month, where we make about 2 cents per hour making these videos, so cheers. Anyway, fanatics, eccentrics, lunatics, and so on have been part of human society since the beginning. The issue today is one of scale. Those leaky simulations have burst open, and our reality is now flooded with berserk imitations of normal people acting on a sense of reality that is at odds with objective reality. We're being overrun by simulacrum. Please don't suffer from derangement syndrome and hallucination. Try to observe reality objectively. We'll try to help. And have you noticed that that this is annoying and obnoxious and not nearly as deadly as it's been claimed to be, as the mortality rate drops and drops and drops and drops to the levels that I was forecasting months ago? Have you noticed a little bit of alarmism when it comes to governments and corporations and stupid, idiotic rules that are utterly ineffective? And NGOs and just regular Karens and Chads all over the internet saying, wear a mask, stay the F home, man. I know more about diseases than I know about my ass or a hole in the ground. Oh, look, HuffPo's breaking out the alarmism. Morgue trucks in Texas, 10,000 plus hospitalized. Oh my God. Let's talk about the most busted name in news, the Communist News Network, CNN, or you could call it the Climate Nonsense Network. OMG, Trump undercuts new virus strategy by hiding experts and facts. Oh my God, that sounds so scary. Oh my God, I've survived a global pandemic so far. Oh my God, it looks like you have too. And since you exist, I think your ancestors probably survived actual cataclysms. Cheers. Congratulations. By the way, we are streaming the content live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube, as if that's going to make any difference with our analytics or get us paid a red cent per month. Again, we make about $2 per hour for the videos, so please visit the other links below and consider supporting the channel financially, as Google AdSense tries its best to bury our videos deep, deep, deep within search algorithm nonsense. We're also on BitChute for exactly that reason, thanks to our new subscriber over there, as we have like 10 times as many views per day on BitChute as we do on YouTube, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content. Whether you're an assistant or an associate producer of the content, look for the tier levels to change soon, as I had I had a eureka moment yesterday about Patreon. We're also on Subscribestar, and there are also links to support us via one-time donations on PayPal, for instance. Also, we're dipping our toe into the wonderful, wonderful world of merch. I think the shirt may be arriving today, as there's something scheduled to show up in the mail. smAshomash.org, check it out if you haven't. We'll be selling Smasher Price My First Pandemic shirts to celebrate as a souvenir of the infantile, idiotic, utterly ineffective, and ridiculous response by mankind to this little China, that little virus that's made in China. It's made of cheap plastic, and your immune system will probably squash it the way Paul Orndorff squashed people's heads during spike pile drivers. If you'd like to reach us for breaking news or anything like that, or if you just like to say hi, reach out to us at the smAsho VoIP line you can call or text. Country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. That's +1 610-936-9799. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Smash Lights, part of the Smash stream, and spliced into the daily space weather. Keep in mind, these Smash Light sections may come on their own sometime, so you may want to check them out, as they will not always be snippets from the daily space weather. Let's talk about some more data here. The GOES magnetometer is looking pretty spiky. Not smooth curves here, spiky curves. And I don't think we're in the North Pole current sheet yet, but I'm surprised at that. Here's the Gong 2 data to show where we are. And we still might be in the South Pole current sheet here. And I would expect us to snap over into the North Pole current sheet shown in green at any moment. I mean, it could be happening literally right now. Keep in mind the environment can change with no warning. That's the way magnets work. And the data is 1 hour and 52 minutes old. And next we'll look at the line of sight field plot showing the B field in blue. And you can see it being pulled down a little bit by that alpha class sunspot right at the end there. Here's the latest image. And you can see that little descent of the B field down toward that sunspot. That's normal activity. And we'll be seeing lots more of this as the sun ramps up. Here's the 1-year electron flux graph. And you can see we're back into more normal to moderate levels here. Here's the 3-day graph, nothing too exciting happening there. Here's the total electron content forecast. This is the whole air column, all the way from the thermosphere down to the ground level. And we see some pretty significant GPS errors here, but nothing too crazy. Small anomalies here near Antarctica, as well as nighttime charge-ups over the Caribbean, etc. You can see the Caribbean staying a little bit charged up there, as well as the Central Atlantic. Next, looking at just one layer of the atmosphere here, it's the ionosphere, and it's a little bit anomalous looking here, a little wobbly, and it's suddenly charging and discharging. Excuse me. And it's very hot in the Smash Tower right now. Let's keep this thing moving. That one's an 8:30 image. Here's where stuff's located in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week, God willing, approaching another full moon. I like to use in-the-sky.org to see what's going on above my head. If you're up before dawn, you should see quite a pileup. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all up there at once. Next, looking at weather.gov to see some flash flood warnings in the Gulf. And I see they actually have tsunami warning here. Somehow I don't think that's tsunami warnings. Looks like heat advisories. And by the way, there are no current tsunami warnings, although a bunch of flash floods there. So we've gone to tropical tidbits here just to show you what the forecast is. And let's see here. Some big rains forecasted. There's the 30th of July, and that's 1800 Zulu. Doesn't look that extreme except for western Mexico. Expected to get 12 inches of rain there. Some significant rain there. Southern Louisiana also looks like about 6 inches forecasted for the coastal region there along the Gulf. Let's look at let's learn how to speak English and look at volcanoes. As we've been seeing a small uptick here. Nanabiko is erupting, exploding, flight level 10,000. Nishinoshima exploding, flight level 15,000 there. Semaru still on the list, exploding, flight level 13,000 there. There's an image of Popocatépetl exploding yesterday. Dukono exploding, flight level 8,000 there. 24,000-foot ash plume of Popocatépetl. Fuego, no volcanic ash observed. Please don't pole vault the caldera regardless. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000. Revenador exploding, flight level 15,000. And Sabancaya exploding, flight level 24,000. Please do not attempt to broad jump the caldera. Next, looking at earthquakes. And we did see one over a 6 magnitude here in China. We'll get to it. First, we'll scroll up the list here. Citing anything deep or weird. And that Chinese quake is kind of weird. It's not in the most common spot. And here's a deep quake at Colombia. That one coming in at 1921 Universal Time at a depth of 164 kilometers and a magnitude of 4.6. So don't lower your earthquake threats yet, folks, as there are protons headed this way. Here's that quake in China, West Xijiang, which is right on the Tibetan Plateau. There's a location of that. And some economic losses are estimated there, as not all buildings are likely built within what we would call modern earthquake standards. Next, looking at a 4.6 at Chile here. It's nearly 100 kilometers depth, and we've seen regular deep quakes there in South America. A bunch of aftershocks striking Alaska, following that 7.8 magnitude quake on which we reported yesterday. Aftershocks in China. Here's an odd one, and it's at a depth of 200 meters above sea level, just south of Fort Hunter. And just bear with me one moment. Let's move on to talk about Sharticles. Have you been reading some Sharticles? Well, we've got another one today identified. And once again, phys.org's Earth section, which is rife with Sharticles, especially about climate change nonsense, by people who make computer models without understanding anything about the physics, and they tweak variables to make it look scary and spooky. Let's talk about floods 500 years ago. Well, guess what? It turns out that cold weather causes floods, and hot weather causes floods, and the people that made this model also don't know jack about atmospheric physics, meteorology, etc. Check it out. From our previous research, we already know how climate change has affected Europe's floods in the past 50 years, says Alberto Viglione from the Politecnico Torino, one of the key authors of the publications. For forecasts of the next decades, however, it's important to understand it's a completely new situation, or whether this is just a repetition of something that's already occurred. So far, the available data has not been sufficient to ascertain whether this is the case or not. We have examined this question in great detail and can now say with confidence, yes, flooding characteristics in recent decades are unlike those of previous centuries. In other words, global warming apparently makes the planet hotter and colder. It causes more snow and less snow. It causes more hurricanes and less hurricanes. Just look at the data, folks. It's ridiculous. Formerly cold, now warm. River floods now function differently. Okay, so we're supposed to believe that global warming causes rivers to rise, causes sea levels to rise, and causes things to dry up. Isn't that kind of odd? Sounds like a job for Tony Heller. Because of the shift in the flood-generating mechanisms, Gunther Blüschel advocates the use of tools for flood risk assessment that capture the physical processes involved in management strategies that can incorporate recent changes in risk. Regardless of the necessary efforts of climate change mitigation, we will see the effects of these changes in the coming decades, says Blischel. Flood management must adapt to these new realities. In other words, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and a lot of these people are paid six figures to have their head deep, deep in there. You know what's. Let's talk about data. LightningMaps.org's got real-time data, and we've got some uncharacteristic lightning out here near Phoenix. Check it out. Some lone strikes southwest of Surprise and north of Fountain Hills. There's thunder rolling in Buckeye. And this is a little more extreme here. Something going on in Utah. Check it out. Lots of campers there might not be as happy as they used to be with all that lightning strikes. All those lightning strikes, I should say. Pardon my use of pronouns. Now we've got some striking in the east as well. Hey, Charleston, there's thunder rolling in. Go outside and look south, Charleston. You may see a great light show. Next, looking at the pressure cells here on windy.com, who's got a great mobile app, by the way. It's free. We'll let this advance via the GFS forecast into tomorrow. Around noon, we'll pause it. And check it out, the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone has been moving oddly to the west and just kind of stagnating out there. It's the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone, folks. In a moment, we're going to look at the Michael Mann anticyclone, as I think it's moved. It's very exciting. It's very exciting stuff. And let's check it out here. The Michael Mann anticyclone, oh my God, it's moved over toward Siberia. Holy cripes, it's the Michael Mann anticyclone. As we like to name anticyclones after climate hacks, the same way climate hacks label non-tropical storms tropical storms to make the data look scarier. Oh my God, there is a named storm already this year. It was just a coastal low, which was not a tropical storm, but they named it anyway. Why? Because hack frauds. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world, and notice in the northern hemisphere that they are totally incoherent, and we have jet stream blowing the exact opposite direction of normal here around places like India. When you see the jet stream blowing east to west, that's not normal. Here are the jets of the western world, and we see a major kink down there in the southern hemisphere, and we've got more jet stream blowing backwards. Look at this extreme bend right here. Forward, backward. It's extreme meridional jet stream flow beyond what the textbook definition looks like. Let's look at water vapor maps. Here's Europe and Africa. Here's the Far East and Oceania. And I always scroll down so you see the dates, so you know you're looking at the correct date, since the map does not have the date stamps on the map. Next, looking at the Americas. Here's looking at you, Americas. Are you getting a little bit pissed off, Americas? Has your government been utterly ineffective and had its head deep up its ass constantly? Have you noticed problems like this? Are you ready to cancel your government because it's the only non-essential business on Earth? Anyway, there's where the water vapor is. Here's where the cloud cover is over the U.S. We like to use the NASA GOES interactive shortwave. The shortwave infrared band 7, 3.9 nanometers, to see clouds when they're not visible at nighttime. That's right. Water emits radiation, folks. Water emits radiation. I know it sounds crazy. Anyway, here's the U.S. Doppler radar map. Some heavily concentrated storms there over West Virginia, making their way toward Maryland. Very concentrated, possibly producing damaging wind and hail. And let's take a closer look at that situation as well as on the Gulf. We'll take you to two different spots here. Here's West Virginia. Shout out to Mary, who misses West Virginia, for all you viewers who did not know or read all of our comments. By the way, we do read all of our comments. We just can't respond to them all. We're just too big and too famous and too ultra rich from all of our Google AdSense money, pardon the sarcasm. Looks like some rapid rain happening there as we see water appear and then vanish over northern West Virginia. Some mountainous regions up there. Next, we're going to look at this tropical system, I'll call it. Subtropical low pressure zone. And we're getting a little bit of wannabe counterclockwise rotation here, just a little bit. Not real significant, indicating a significant low. And it's being delayed a little bit by this dry air here. Anyway, that's what's going on in the Gulf. Thanks, Smash team, for tuning in to the Smash stream. By the way, please leave us a comment, especially if you're a new viewer. Thanks to everybody who has. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Allow me to vanish and remind you to keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. Go visit our playlists on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smashomash/playlists. There's the current situation of the Umbra. We don't see any trailing Umbra forming, but there could be one there, and if it does, that'll make it a beta class sunspot and greatly increase the probability of coronal mass, coronal mass ejections, but especially solar flares. So the area to watch is this area right here, the trailing Umbra. If it appears, becomes an Umbra, again, the chance of X-ray flares goes up significantly. And let's finish things out in 94 angstroms here. It's a 48-hour SDO video. And just give that a moment to load. It's fairly well worth it. In fact, let's zoom in a little bit here on that southern region. Sunspot 2767. Anyway, we're out. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to stare at the sun. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Visit the links below the video. Share on your social media. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your hometown. For you!